Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lost in Translation show, where we explore current events to help people understand what's happening in their world today. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Simone, and I'll be your host. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can get the good news out. Over the last few years, many people in society have started to realize that their government may not be serving the people as they promised when they ran for election. So should we just sit back and let the politicians and government employees lie and cheat? Or should we push back and fight for our rights and demand our tax dollars be used to benefit the public and not the government's special interests? What can the average person do to push back against the system? To help us understand how to be engaged and educated citizen, I've invited my friend Mylidna Mason to chat with us today. Mylidna is a mom, wife, grandmother, and patriot. She has served on the Republican Central Party Committee in her town and even ran for school board. Like many people, she became discouraged with the uniparty practices of the Republican Party because, like China, California is a one-party state. After becoming aware of the new California state movement, she left the Republican Party and joined the New California effort, where she serves as a committee chair and an assemblywoman. This is a constitutional movement that hopes to reorganize California into two states like the West Virginia model. People outside the major cities in California suffer from taxation without representation and no longer feel safe or protected by their government. Organized crime has inserted themselves into sanctuary cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles, making the streets unsafe. They have committed billions of dollars in fraudulent activity. They are facilitating the human slave and drug trade and creating unsafe streets. Millions of California businesses and citizens have and are leaving this state every day. Yes, the fifth largest economy in the world is bankrupt, and they continue to rob the citizens under increasing tax oppression. What are people to do? Are we going to keep electing the same representatives that repeatedly lie to the population, or peacefully rise up against the tyranny of our leaders as we are instructed to do in the United States Constitution? Mylidna is driven by her Reformation theology faith and a love for her fellow man and her creator. So without much more ado, welcome, Mylidna Mason.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Simone.
It's so nice to
I
see you.
enjoy listening to you. I enjoy your programs, and I've enjoyed getting to know you and your friendship. And I think we became, it was instant contact because I was hearing you say all of the things that I've been saying over the last 20 or 30 years, and most people didn't want to listen, much less believe. So I was like, "Ooh, she's one of us." So
I
very
think we've
excited to be here. Thank
even
you.
in the last few years, we've made some great progress just from
Yeah.
5 years ago to today. When
Yeah.
you try to talk to people about these different topics, and people that totally blew me off and would play like the background of one of the conspiracy theory movies or something, doo 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 doo. And now they call me and ask me for information. And as Mylidna and I have discussed privately, when people finally do come to us for information, we have to set aside our ego and be open and welcoming because
Mhm.
they were brainwashed their entire lives like we were in the beginning of our lives. And so we never want to throw that back in people's faces. We just want to be grateful and prayerful that their eyes have been opened so now they can see.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Now, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background yourself? I gave a little in the intro, but just so people kind of know where you're coming from.
Yeah, thank you. I actually was a young mother of one. In 1981, I had my first son, and it was, I believe, in 1982. So he was just over a year old. I was attending a large church here. We had 5,400 members plus. And the pastor challenged everyone to go across the street to the old building and view a video that they were putting out. And that video was put out by, at that time, a retired Surgeon General of the United States. And he had performed more abortions than anyone in the world. He had went worldwide with those abortions. And so my husband and I took the challenge. We went and we viewed the video, and I was totally shocked at the sight. It was called the silent scream. And you could literally, he showed us an actual live abortion that he had performed when he was training staff. And you could see the child in the womb pull back every way. And then as its life was being taken, you could see that silent scream. It horrified me. It was so sad. And I knew there was abortion. I didn't know much about it. I learned a lot about it that night. And I remember going home and just being so saddened that would murder an innocent baby in the womb. And it's like I was looking in the mirror, a few days later, Simone, and saying, why aren't people doing anything? Why don't they care? And it was almost like I heard God say to me, this is how it felt to me. You are someone, you can do something. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, yes, I am one person, but I can do something. I can't do it all. I can't save them all. I can't tell the whole world, but I can certainly do what I can. And so I found out where the abortuary was in my hometown, the Killing Center. And I began to go there with my baby in the stroller. And as I had my second son, I continued. And to this day, I still stand for life and for liberty in this nation. If we can't protect life, we can't protect liberty. We don't need liberty if we don't have life. So I do believe everyone has a right to life. And so that's what I did. I did it every single Wednesday from that moment on. Even if it was a holiday, it didn't matter. That abortuary stays open. And I was pretty taken back by the fact that there were a lot of pastors in my area that were bringing in young women to abort their children without even the knowledge or consent of their parents. And then what I really began to pick up on was a lot of these girls that I would talk to would be 11 or 12 years old. And they were, because eventually I moved closer to that killing center. And now I'm just maybe 2 miles less than. And so I also am less than a mile from a junior high that has sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. And what I saw was that these teachers, these principals, and these counselors would be bringing in these girls at 11 and 12 years of age from that junior high and then, of course, high school. But the vast majority of these girls are coming between 11 and, say, 22. And the vast majority of them, again, are just they're just trying to cover their sin. They're trying to cover their lifestyle. They're trying to get on with life and move on. But what I found is I would see the same girls coming in two, three, four, as much as 6 or 7 times in the last years. And so it's really horrifying. It's mainly being used, in other words, as birth control. And so it's heartbreaking. But in 1989, with my two sons, I had a miscarriage myself. And my mom, who usually took one of my boys at a time, came and picked up my children and took them because she knew I was really, sad and sick. But about probably 10 minutes before I was at that clinic, because like I said, I never missed, I just felt the urge that I had to go. I still have to go, even if I'm suffering, even if I'm sad, even I gotta go. So my purse, I grabbed my keys, I drove down. I wasn't there probably 10 seconds walking down the sidewalk with my sign, and someone grabbed my hand from behind. I knew it would be my friend Kit because Kit was always there with me. And instead, I turned around and there was a beautiful young 19-year-old girl. I know that because she said to me as she grabbed my hand and I turned to her, I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yes. Um, I'm 19 years old. I'm a drug addict. I've been an alcoholic since the age of 11." She was date raped at that time, she tells me. And she said, "I was just on the table this morning for my third abortion. Can you help me?" And I said, "I don't have all the answers. Remember, I'm a young mom with two little boys." And I said, "But I know the one who does, and I can definitely help you." So we followed up. I did not follow up on her because I'd learned by this time to try to help these young ladies by getting their phone number, address, and it doesn't work. So what I did is I gave her my home phone number. I gave her my address. I said, "My door's always open. I'm 12 blocks away." And I went out. I remember very well. It was Easter Sunday. Coming up and look for a dress. I came home and there was a message on my phone, and she said, "Hi, this is Christy. We met on Coffee Road. I'll try back later." And I thought, "Oh no, I missed that." Eventually, within a couple of weeks, we talked on the phone several times, and she ended up at my kitchen table. And when she came here the first time, she said to Ron and I don't I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know why, Melinda, but I want to give you my baby. I know I'm not ready for this. I don't want to raise a child. I'm not prepared, but I know I don't want to go back in for that abortion because she had already been on the table with her feet in the stirrups. Dr. Christopher Mills, who I know very well over these years, had come into the room, and for some reason, the gal who was doing the sonogram, because they, like I said, they always do a sonogram, they always have to have those pictures. Those babies are so tiny, they could leave a toe and you could be infected. And I've watched that many times. I've followed an ambulance to the hospital, but she said, she asked the gal, "Can I see the screen?" And she said, "No, no, absolutely not. I could lose my job." But she was much like her son that I raised. She's very persistent and very strong-willed. And for some reason, that nurse turned the screen and she saw the head and the feet and the hands. And when Christopher Mills came into the room, she told me, she said, "I told Dr. Mills I've changed my mind." And he told her, "It's too late. Can't be changing your mind at this point. You've been prepped. We're ready. We're going to do this." And she got up, she got dressed, and she left. And that's when she met me that day. So in 1990, I was able to adopt, of all things, on Christmas or on Thanksgiving Day, Matthew Mason. Matthew means gift of God. That's why we named him Matthew, a gift of God. And he's now, golly, he's going to be 30 this year. So
Did he
that's
ever know
me.
his
That's
birth
what
mother?
he did eventually meet his birth mother. Yes,
And
he
was
did.
she able to find a better way in life?
She was. She
That's great.
actually, while we were during that pregnancy, Ron and I actually attended AA meetings with her and helped her kind of get on her feet. We would shop for maternity clothes, and people would say, "When's your baby due?" And she would always defer to me and say, "Actually, it's not my baby. Why don't you ask the mother?" You should have seen the people's faces back then. It was hilarious. And then we also went through labor and delivery with her, Lamaze, and we kept being told it's a girl, it's a girl, it's a girl. Now remember, we have two boys, so we were excited to prepare for this little girl. And Rana and I were in there. It was modest, but he still could take a photo when the baby was born from where he was. And I'll never forget it. The doctor says, looks like a little girl, looks like a little girl. It's a boy. And my husband literally dropped the camera. He was like in shock. We didn't know what to do. We brought a pink dress with us. So the hospital provided a cute little set of pajamas. But my son can tell that story much better than I. He's brilliant. He was always homeschooled from the beginning. And I always knew he would be an attorney because this is a boy who would hide under the table, to read books when he's supposed to be doing chores. This is a boy that I would say you can give me a drawing or you can write something, and he'd write something, and the other two boys would go, he's crazy.
Well, this might be too personal, but did he ever struggle with any of the addiction issues or anything that his
Uh,
mom
uh, n-
faced? No,
no, he didn't.
that's great.
There's a
Broke the
lot more to that
cycle.
story. I don't know. This probably isn't the time to go into it, but my son was actually um, abused by someone in the Republican Party and in the church, sadly.
Wow.
And the scripture says it's better. And I talked to the man. He was giving actually a speech one night at a Republican event, a gigantical crowd that night. For some reason, I was able to talk to him one on one and ask him, have you seen my son? And he said, yes. And I talked to him and I said, do me a favor, pray for whoever touched my son, that God would place a noose around their neck and he'd be cast into the lowest parts of the sea. By the time that was finished and they called his name, and he was giving a huge event at what we call the Gallo Center, or wine, about
In
Gallo.
Modesto, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So it was a big event. It had a lot of military. And when they called on him to give his report that night, I was standing in the back still, and I said, he's gone. He left.
Oh,
He
he
didn't
did?
even, he just flat out left. Then he was working here in town. He left his job within 3 days. So that gives me a lot of clues. And I
Right.
actually had the DA come to me and ask me a couple of questions about him. And so, it just goes to show you these children, doesn't matter who they are. I, I'm a protective mama bear, but these people can get to your kids.
Right.
And it's heartbreaking. So we have to do whatever we can. And as you said in your intro, I always say on all the programs that I'm on and what I do, because it's really the truth, that I'm here because I actually do love the Lord my God with all of my heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I do believe that the next commandment, like unto it, is to love our neighbors ourselves. And especially, again, those who can't speak for themselves, the lowliest, the weakest among us, those are the ones we have to look out for, I think.
Well, and we have this satanic energy over us. We live in this fallen state. Even our bodies are a fallen state. We were spirit before. And
Absolutely.
so, what a lot of people don't understand about the big push for abortion is that it's what they call communion in the Church of
Yes.
Satan. And they literally perform abortions in their church because they're killing the innocent and then they
Mhm.
drink the blood of the terrorized child. And they also
Yes.
sell the parts on the black market. And I just was on a show where there's a lot of former traffic victims and they go into this in detail. So, what a beautiful story. And if anyone's out there struggling with this right now, there's a family out there that wants your child. So,
Mhm.
please don't make the wrong decision. The friends I have that have made that decision in their life, they suffered from alcoholism. There
Yes.
was always some issue later on, especially when it was something their parents made them do. They
especially.
were young, right? And so they've never dealt with it. And then they feel guilt because they had several children after. Some people feel nothing at all, and that's totally up to them. But we have to understand that the attack on our children is coming from all different places. And this is one of the ways, if they're not even born.
Yeah.
They aborted over 17.5 million Black children. Bill Gates' father, with Margaret Sanger, formed Planned Parenthood, which is in
Mhm.
all Black neighborhoods, to
That's right.
destroy and remove the Black population off the earth. That's why they're
Hmm.
all in Black. And a Black woman, forget
Absolutely.
how many more times, even more white women have more abortions because there's more white women. When you look at the numbers, they're like in the 6 and 7, like you were just discussing. And again, why did we just have to let 20 million new people into our country? Because we aborted 17.5 million
Hmm.
alive, working, productive people from our own communities and our own culture. And now, because if you've heard my speeches on the birth certificate system,
Yes.
we're short 17.5 million birth certificates, which would be pledged so they can continue the wars, because birth certificates are pledged to the Vatican Bank in order to fund our Federal Reserve System. So it's
Correct.
so much deeper than just it is quality. Look what's happening to the people in China right now, because genetically, the Chinese, if you look at their facial features, they have white skin, but the noses and everything are African, right? So there was somewhere along the line. So
Hmm.
in this group of supremacists, and I
That's
personally have a
right.
lot of really good Asian friends. So, this would devastate me. I love having
Yeah,
friendships with Asian women. There's a total protocol,
there is.
especially ones that come from the other countries and into the States. And there's very much a former protocol to friendship, and I really enjoy that.
I
And
do.
my friend will look at me sometimes and she'll be like, "You are so white," and we'll laugh because I am so white. But we
Right.
joke about it because we see each other's differences, but we're 95% the same. We just have different cultural. uh,
Absolutely.
we have the same. She was upset with me. I was out with a group of her Asian friends, and I was talking about the Catholic Church and this and that. She goes, we're Protestants, so this is kind of offensive. I'm like, yes, you are a Protestant, therefore you protest the acts of the Catholic Church. And no one said
Absolutely.
anything for like 3 minutes. They just ate their lunch and they're like, okay, tell us more. And then
They
after
don't get it.
that, right? And I explained to them what went on in China, because a few of my friends were from Taiwan, and their families owned factories. Their mother grew up with servants, and they were basically just put on a plane or a boat and said, "Get out of here or you're going to be dead," right?
Mhm.
So we have to, oh, I guess this all started with my comment about abortion.
I do.
But it is an attack. And if you notice, when you go to cultures, if we've talked about Islam, they worship Saturn, Saturnalia, Kronos of the child sacrifice, and especially in selective birth countries. I think Pakistan is one of the highest abortions, Saudi Arabia, because they
Mhm.
abort little girls, right? Because the
Ah,
sun is
absolutely.
women have no value. Muhammad said, that hell was filled with women because they're so disobedient and stupid. So we
Well,
can,
even in America, it's mainly little girls that we are aborting.
well, right. And because it still exists here, but the overall, there's cultural things that push it
Yes.
way, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, I'm just thinking of that because I remember as a young woman going out there and recognizing, all of these feminists. We're not hearing those loud feminists anymore, are we?
Well,
But
because a lot of them were really dudes in drag. Okay.
ex
We need to
that's right.
understand the New World Order.
That's right.
Many of the famous movie stars, many of our politicians' wives are
Yeah,
gender inverse.
transgenders.
Go, we just were talking about this on the last
Or,
channel. Go to the EU and see
mm-hmm,
that all of the men in the EU have breeding hips, but their wives have no hips at all. So,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
oh wow,
Is
did you hear
that
that?
wild?
Did you hear that going over me?
I didn't.
Oh my gosh, it was, I don't know what it was. It was like a helicopter that literally went right
Yeah.
over. Okay. I'm like, are they bombing me? They're so
coming for us.
tired of me mouthing off at Anderson River Park every Tuesday and Thursday morning. They've sent the troops. Okay, so let's get it. We're only on our second question.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so many people today are frustrated by their political party on both sides of the aisle, or on the Green Party or the Liberal Party or the Independent Party. It doesn't matter. All over the world, people are upset with their politicians. What
Yes.
was it that finally made you leave the mainstream Republican Party in California? And that'll lead into the next question. So
Okay, well, let me just go back real quick to abortion because it was the abortion issue and recognizing that though I was willing to go to the streets, talk to these girls, bring them into my home, show them videos, love them up and try to get them on a better road and course for life, I recognize that it's our laws. They're horrible and that I had to get involved politically. And so that is actually in, oh golly, I think it was in 1988, maybe, that I decided I needed to get involved with the Republican Party originally. So I started going to local meetings here, and then eventually, you know me, it's just kind of my personality. I got sucked in. I had to be part of, not just part of it. I had to take on, a job and leadership and that. And so over the years, the course of the Republican Party, I believe I've attended all of the conventions since like the Reagan era. So because of that, and because of my involvement when I watched the Republicans and the Democrats bring in the SEIU, and I watched them intermingle their monies 100%, then I knew I could no longer give financially at all to that party, number one. Number two, I was always extremely cautious and never took a dime. Everything I gave, my husband and I would often do meals. I did all kinds of things. I was involved in the, not just on my board, my county board, I was on the executive board. I also joined the CRA, which was supposed to be the California Republican Assembly. It's supposed to be, Ronald Reagan said, the conscience of the Republican Party. And then eventually I also got involved with Republican women and took leadership roles there. But what I saw was they were all capitulating. They were all giving in. If there's no difference in the two parties, if it's a uniparty and you're uniting your monies and you're deciding in a back room somewhere who will win and who will lose, loser can take all, and the winner can go in and quote unquote serve the people. It's wicked. So eventually I got involved with something called, I'm sure you've heard of it, the state of Jefferson. Paul Preston was part of that movement. That was decades ago now. And that's how I originally met Paul. And so though I kept
now
my eye,
just to clarify really quickly, now
sure,
was the state of Jefferson, was
correct.
there, they were gonna succeed from the union, or they were succeed
They
from the
They
state?
w-
There,
they wanted, yeah, they wanted to create their own state, and it goes back, 100 years more. And so there's a history online for anybody that wants to see that history. But I attended those meetings, and the more I got involved with the leadership in my area, I saw that they were dictators. And so the woman who ran it actually called me and said, I was told I've been called a little Hitler. She knew I had said that. Absolutely. Because when you come into a meeting and you're sitting there and it's supposed to be, you're supposed to be pushing liberty and helping people become a part of a liberty movement. You don't turn to someone. There was an innocent guy I'll never forget at that last meeting I went to, and he was sitting there, and it was probably like 2015. and he was talking about Trump, and he was excited about what he was seeing. And he wasn't sitting far from me at this meeting, and he said, "I'd like to help out at this event. Can I wear my Trump hat?" And instead of saying, "I wish you wouldn't, I prefer you don't," it was it was a Hitler move. No, I'll tell you what you can wear. I'll tell you what you can do. I'll tell you. And I sat there with kind of flabbergasted. I looked across the kid because he couldn't have been more than 25. And I looked at him and I said, this doesn't sound like a liberty movement to me. Don't know about you. And that was my last meeting. I kind of walked away. I kept my eye on what Paul Preston was doing since I had met Paul through the new state of Jefferson. And I came on the phone calls when he began them so long ago. It's probably been 10 years now. And I would listen in on Sunday evenings. I would have people over. We would sit at the Patriot Cottage here and listen to the phone calls. I might go for a walk with my husband and a friend and listen to the phone calls. And I tried to stay abreast of where they were, but it was a little bit hard to believe that after being in watching Jefferson and so many other movements over the years, that this could actually come to fruition in some kind of timely manner and that there was really work to be done. But the more I listened and the more I watched my party fail the people, and I recognized they were absolutely not serving the people any longer, that they had capitulated completely. Um,
Well, I
I,
know that we've talked a lot about Jeffrey Epstein and the blackmail
yes,
operations, and you'll know that
exactly.
for instance, after World War II, our politicians would not give a dime to Israel. Now we give them 35,000 per person and we vote, and it's literally illegal in 27 states. Someone was just arrested for talking out against Israel. So
How do you
you
like
can
that?
tear your own country down, but you can
Yes.
literally go to jail in the United States for saying what you believe. Oh no, here they come. No, they're getting me.
Isn't that the truth?
And of
Yeah,
course,
it's the truth.
I know
I
many
call it the fake
beautiful,
Israel. I
yeah,
like to call it the fake Israel. And
right.
that really makes people upset and angry. And I say, listen, when it started in 1948, I think there's a history that goes back far deeper than that and longer than that. Let's be realistic here. Who began it and when and where, right? And not
The city of London,
people look at the Bible and they start immediately getting going nutso on me, and I say, "Hey, wait a second. It was Jesus himself who said, 'Be careful. Not all Israel is Israel. We have to know who
even
they
it's
are.'"
illegal to get a DNA test. You have to have a court order in Israel because people find out they're Turks from the line of Jabez. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean they can't worship the Lord.
That's right.
Does not mean
No,
any of this. This isn't
absolutely not.
anti-Semitic or anti-Israel.
Not at all.
It's just the fact that they themselves have been deceived.
Yeah.
And they find out there's entire websites of people from Israel who moved other
Yes,
places and had a DNA test and found out that they're Turkish and
exactly.
they're Asians, really. They're not
Yes.
Israelites. So,
Yeah.
this is the grand deception. And
Or Syrian. Hmm.
right, all of the Jewish leaders changed their name from Eastern European Khazarian names to
Right?
more Middle Eastern names. Netanyahu isn't his name.
That's
Golda
right.
Meir,
And
that's
was
not her
not born
name.
in Israel. We need
Yeah,
to point
he was
that
born
out.
in
He was
Connecticut.
not born in Israel.
Right. So
And mhm,
we have the false corporate construct that's capturing things in. We saw
mhm,
Ghislaine Maxwell was forming her own new country because the United States went bankrupt and ceased
mhm.
being a country in 1999 when we had our
That's
third
right.
bankruptcy. And the people who control the world understand that all of the previous constructs and contracts that we're involved in have expired, and they are going around recapturing us into their system because we don't know. And what
That's right.
is the leaders of Israel predominantly don't believe in God. They're atheists.
That's correct.
And they also are
I want to point
secularists.
out something, Simone, real quick on because we talked so much about abortion already. Again, I don't want to keep going on abortion, but I always ask people, where is the largest abortion killing center in the world? And they say, I don't know. New York, California. And I say, Israel,
Well, and they're
Israel.
harvesting the organs and selling the body
Yes,
parts. This is the
yes,
secret side of abortion,
yes,
right? And that's why they want the late term abortion because the
yes.
organs are more. And again, this is the ancient Babylonian system.
Mhm,
Babylon was a far advanced society over to what we have now. They were able to do organ transplants. They were able to do a lot of things that we do today. So nothing
mhm.
new under the sun. And we're really living in that system. So we only got to question three.
Sorry. And we're not, you're right, we're not anti-Israel or we are anti-fraud.
Yes, we're
It's a fraud
anti-New
only.
World Order. It doesn't matter where you are. And again,
Absolutely.
like everyone wants to blame Israel, but it's really the City of London, which is a
Yes,
private Vatican state that owns
yes,
a private corporation in Israel. And that was funded because they funded Mohammed to take the Middle East back, the Vatican did, and that backfired. And they ended up killing all the Christians and Jews. And
yes.
so then they had to put in the new system for since the fall of the official fall of the Roman Empire
That's
almost
right.
2,000 years ago. They've spent their time trying to recapture it. And that's what communism is.
Yes.
Communism is a Catholic construct because it's international.
Hmm.
International means it is derived from corporate power that it
Hmm.
doesn't own any actual land. And
That's right.
so this may all seem convoluted in the things we're talking about from abortion to what's going on in the Jesuit Vatican state of California, but they are all connected
They
because
are.
they all stem from the same system. And the reason that our politicians don't stand up for themselves is A, they're responsible to the people who put them in power. And
Yes.
B, because they're not put in that situation unless they have something to blackmail, extort, steal from,
Hmm.
use, or whatever it is. Because our politicians, poly means many, tick means something that sucks your blood. So
Hmm.
many suckers of our blood. That's literally what the word politics means if you break it down. So,
Yes.
okay, so
Yes.
let's get one more question.
Okay.
Trying to fit it in a time frame because we're using this on a couple other shows, so we wanted to be
Sure.
all in the same show. So, since the state is bankrupt, how will the new state fund itself, preserve existing pension and benefits for old state employees, and how will our massive debt be paid off?
That's that's a really good question. And I kind of go to sleep sometimes on the financial thing because it's a little overwhelming and it's so repetitive as we go through this time of, building this new state. But um, I've heard Chris Street say this, and or yeah, Chris,
Yeah,
right? It's
Chris is
Chris
he's the
Street.
one who
Yeah, yeah.
usually talks
All
about
of a sudden I'm having there's so many Chris's, Chris Strong, Chris Street. And then I was talking to Karen Ginkle again, and we were talking about the fact that there's that movie and it always comes to mind. You build it, they'll come.
it.
And so
Yes,
that's kind of what he has told us all along. That is part of the narrative that he keeps repeating, and it does make sense. As people see that the fall not is coming, but as they catch up with where we all are, and they recognize that, like you said, in 1999, it all fell. And then it's being rebuilt slowly in the background, that we might not panic, that we might have hope for our future, and it's frankly just so horrifying and so shocking, all this put together, right? That it had to be this way. And so we know there's a military occupancy working in the background, and we know that there are good people standing up our prospective states again, that we all might again unite as the United States of America. And so as they see us building it, they will come. There are investors who are ready and willing and able. And it kind of made me laugh. Karen says, gosh, if I had a few $1,000,000, I'd just hand it over and I wouldn't have to give up my time and my talent. I could get on with life. And it's like, yeah, exactly. We're devoting. And people need to recognize this. We're all devoting our lives to this without a paycheck. These people have stood up this restored government, first known as the reorganized government. We reorganized it, this restored government, and now this recovered California government has been brought to you by the new state of California. It is the same people, and a lot of people can't quite comprehend that. Who are you? How can you go in and take over your government? And I always remind them, remember, it's Constitution, Constitution, Constitution. And we really have three. We have that first document I call the most beautiful, the Mayflower Compact, where in the name of God, amen, we whose names are underwritten, loyal subjects of our dread sovereign King James. It was not easy for them, but they were coming here to start a nation of liberty. And they tried to get regress the right way. And we all know it ended with a war. And then we've continued with wars and rumors of wars. We still have them today. But those people understood some basic things that I taught my children as I took them out of school in the 80s also and homeschool them, is that, that first principle that comes out of that beautiful Constitution is God's principle of individuality, not individualism, two different things. Individualism has led us into this whole sodomy movement that we see before our eyes, throwing their flags in front of our faces. Not that, but individuality, that we're all created unique, like you were talking about earlier with your Asian friends or your other friends or our Black friends. We're all individuals. We have unique characteristics that God's given all of us. And then those people recognizing and honoring that amongst one another, right? And celebrating it could come together in Christian self-government, saying, I recognize that I am responsible before my Creator to take care of me first. Not in a selfish manner, but if you can't rule your own body, don't try to rule mine. You can't rule your own family. Don't come in and give me ideas. You can't control your pants and you can't control your own pocketbook. Don't come in and try to take over my city government, right? So that kind of thing. And then because of that, they understood that one of the most important things was America's beautiful Christian heritage of Christian character. If 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 you can't recognize that that there are laws to live by and rules to live by, and those come from the Creator Himself, not to put us in a box, not to keep us in bondage, but to make us free. And so that's what we see. And then the ideal of just our Christian conscience being so important, actually more important than anything else. Those founders, those Pilgrim Fathers saw that came over on the Mayflower, and all those Covenanters that came after, all those reformers, they understood that Christian conscience was the most important thing, because yes, they can come in and they can rape my body. Yes, they can steal everything. Yes, they can murder us. They can take our children. They can do many things, but they cannot take away, these founders knew, your Christian conscience, that before God, you will die with that inside of you. And
Well,
they were
that's why
willing.
communism removes religion, so people have nothing to hang on to. I myself have lived in communist countries, and people would always come up to me and they'd show me a cross under their shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And like they would come and they would ask about, because a lot of the churches, the Mormons came, I was there before communism
Yeah,
fell and then after. So all of a
yeah.
sudden there were the Mormons everywhere, the Jehovah Witness, all these big, the Catholic Church. The
All the
Catholic
cults.
Church, really, I never saw any Catholics there because the Orthodox Church is there already. But you
Yes.
saw all of the evangelicals and,
Mm-hmm.
those churches are connected
Mm-hmm.
on some level, even
Mm-hmm.
like today, one of the things that people don't that triggered the Ukraine situation as Lenensky joined the Roman Empire Catholic
Hmm.
system.
Right.
And he left the Orthodox system and they burned a bunch and killed a bunch of the priests. So this is really like a preset. So again, we're
Yes.
seeing the struggle between the Eastern Roman Empire and the Western Roman Empire, which those bloodlines still exist to this day, and they're trying to restructure it. Rome never fell. And
No.
what I want to say about this movement, this is a constitutional movement. We're
Hmm.
using the West Virginia model. And
Hmm.
the people in West Virginia did not want to keep slavery or have slavery. The people in the main part of Virginia did. And
That's right.
so they moved, and there was literally people murdered, their homes were burned
That's right.
because slave people who believe slavery is the way the world should be are the old communists. Look at all the libs. Like I was laughing once if you listen to a lot of Black historians, and they're like, all of a sudden, the slave owners were building us colleges and charting
Hmm.
charities for us, right? They had been the
Yeah.
slave owners, they were the children of the people that went to war to keep slavery, and now all of a
That's
sudden they
right.
cared. All the Black colleges are started by an avid racist slave owner because once they got off the plantation, like we're having June 19th coming up, where they
Hmm.
announce that you're free. You know what that guy
Hmm.
says on the steps of the Texas courthouse when he announces?
Hmm.
He says, "You are now free slaves."
That's right.
Because we are all slaves in the birth
Yes, we
certificate
are.
system that 50 years later they were going to implement over all of us again after that we'd escaped it in Europe, our ancestors had escaped the system.
Hmm.
And then we came to the United States, so they had to come recapture us into the system.
That's
And
right.
most of the people who originally came to America were the wealthy elite who had money to invest, and they needed to bring workers here to do the mines, to harvest the timber, because the
Hmm.
Indians were on a different page. And whether people understand it or not, there was a lot of Blacks people. There was a Black Cherokee tribe.
Absolutely.
America has been known about, it's written about in the Sumerian and Egyptian tablets. It was called Americus, land of the plumed serpent. What is the
Hmm.
plumed serpent? It's a dragon. So
Hmm.
we have the red dragon. So we're just in another chapter in this massive world
We
Roman
are.
Empire system that's really the whore of Babylon. That's the system that separates God from man.
Yeah.
So it's not
It's really the
reason,
system of
it's a
the
system.
Antichrist, I think.
Yeah, well,
And we have to remove ourselves. We have to be ready and willing. And slavery is back, right? In the
slavery
form
never
of child
fell.
and sex
Slavery
trafficking, big time. And it's going to come into everyone's living room pretty soon. And they're going to have to face the facts. And they're going to
so
have to face the facts that the open borders were very deliberate that they might continue this wickedness and insurrection and I believe treason.
and
And
they also are capturing those birth
they
certificates
are
into our Federal Reserve System
absolutely.
and taking more income because it works everywhere. All the countries in the world are in this system. So when we take 500,000 people from Guatemala, Guatemala continues, not only is it a brain drain of their youth and they're attractive
Hmm.
people, right? And they're
Hmm.
healthy people. It's
Hmm.
a drain on the ability of their country to take future loans against the financial system that we live in and
That's
keep
right.
the power in the countries that already have it. So that's kind of convoluted from what I was talking about. We're using the West Virginia model. The
Hmm.
Constitution tells us in the event of tyranny, in the event we are no longer held safe, when the
Right.
contract that our government has been taken over by tyrants, we have the right and the duty to
To throw
rise
it off.
against them and replace the government with like-minded, law-abiding people. Because remember, the
Absolutely.
word government itself is comes from the word les emporium, which
Hmm.
literally means mind control in Latin.
Yes. Wow. Isn't that amazing? So Constitution, Constitution, Constitution.
That's right.
There was that original. Then there's what you're talking about, the Declaration of Independence. And that is the one that the new state of California is going back to. And we, the people, have the right and the duty to throw off the tyrant. So that's why we're here. That's what we've been working on. And it comes down to, again, our Christian form of government that brought us that greatest constitution on earth that we've lost touch with. And most of us didn't even know it. Our parents, our grandparents did not know it. It's heartbreaking. It's upsetting to a lot of people, but the facts are the facts again, and we have to go there. These churches that you're talking about that are actually cults, remember, they are top-down governments, all of
Right.
them. They are not in the stead of the Covenanters that brought us this nation, the Scottish Reformers. Those people understood that it was the lower people, the lesser magistrates that had to take the helm. And that is what this nation was built on. So we are not a top-down government. We are absolutely bottom up, and we have to return to that. We can no longer have kings. The cry of the reformers was no king but Christ.
Right.
And remember to George Washington in the beginning, a few of them, and said, would you consider being our king? And he said, absolutely not.
Right.
And he became a president instead. And yet, I heard Paul say, and I love it, I repeat it often right now, because we know we're under this corporation, this corporate system. Trump actually has more power than any king. And he can pretty much do whatever he wills. And people get angry again when you say that, but it's just a fact. Abraham Lincoln had that power. He took it. He was distressed over what was going on in this nation in the same forms of slavery and trafficking, borders, insurrection, treason, and he wanted to save this nation, so he stepped in. And one of the first rallies that ever gave all the way back to 2015, 2016, and he continued to repeat it. I don't know why people didn't hear it. I can't comprehend. But he said, I am your Abraham Lincoln. And he's repeating it now more than ever. And we are going back. We will be restored, and we will get back our one day in-person paper ballots, elections, free and clean. And because the new state of California and Paul, those people who have stepped up again, like I was saying, that they're not getting any pay for this. They're doing this really because they do love their country. They love their children. They want a better place to live, and they don't want tyrants ruling over them.
Now, can you, on that note, we're going to wrap up in a minute. Can you give us some
Okay.
information on how to maybe join the new California State
Oh,
Call? Have
certainly.
any
Yeah, I'd
contact
love to.
information?
I'd love to.
And also, I wanted to announce you're going to be there too on October 3rd. Since we're talking about Abraham Lincoln, we'll
Yeah.
be having a new California, new Illinois, because this movement is going on many states.
Yes, it
Event
is.
at the Abraham Lincoln Library on October 3rd. So people are welcome to fly in. The tickets will be on sale the month before the event, starting in September on the New California State website. So you can
Mm-hmm.
go to newcaliforniastate.com if you want to check out. We've got some upcoming events. We've got a fun event going on down where you live in Angel Camp
Mm-hmm.
on the
Yeah.
28th of the month, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
250-year celebration with
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of like-minded people. So if you'd like to step out for a barbecue, and why don't you go ahead and give us your info
That's
and then we'll
awesome.
wrap up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. People obviously can go to the website. They can go to newcaliforniastate.com. On there, you will see it's just really well done. You'll see all kinds of buttons and hints, and you can push around on there and find an awful lot of information. Also, Agenda 21 Radio. Paul Preston, Robert Preston. We call him Paul. Affectionately, we call him Governor. He was literally asked to step up at the Seventh Constitutional Convention. We've done 13, and he was asked by the Assembly, the Senate, and those who were serving in the state to step up and take on that position, and he did do that. He was unanimously voted in. This is a legitimate government. For anyone who thinks the new state of California is coming, you're way late to the party. It's okay. Like Simone says, we totally forgive you. But we actually were registered with the Supreme Court on January 15th of 2018. So we have been enacting an active state since. We're not looking for statehood. We have it. We have it all. But what we are looking for is to join those beautiful United States of America once again. But again, it's not just California that's rogue. It's been these entire United States of America. Trump understands that. We've been calling ourselves the United States all of my life. And we have been, again, a corporate system. We want to change that. We want to go back to the era of our founding father generation and go back to that first document that is a nation, once again, of the people, by the people, for the people. And we want to do that under God. These constitutions, by the way, um, yes, they are covenants with one another, but again, our founders understood that they were actually covenants first and foremost with God Himself, our Creator. So that is where we're headed back to. We read 190 grievances in the public square. You can find those. These are not things that were done completely in darkness, but they were certainly done out of the limelight in order to protect those who are standing up. This state, we wrote a constitution, by the way, that is Republican in its form. And we can't think of a better one than that organic one that was handed to us. It's coming out again in the media, finally, that we have two lawsuits that were filed by, again, Paul Preston, amicus briefs to the United States Supreme Court in support of President Trump because Trump told us this. People don't believe me. Again, I donned my tinfoil hat for it. I still stand by it, though my hat is retired because I think I have been vindicated. The 2020 election will be rectified. And then we also filed a lawsuit, Paul did, on behalf of the new state of California and the restored government against Gavin Newsom, Alex Padilla, and Shirley Weber. These people have committed crimes against humanity, and they must be dealt with. So those are the things, those are the main things. We turned 10 of our counties towards President Donald J. Trump, and I was absolutely a part of that. I've been a whistleblower on my party. I had to. I had no, again, my conscience is the greatest. And so I had no choice. We have filed over, I believe it's over 80,000 declarations of truth. And we've been working very hard. We have a full working Senate and assembly ready to go. We have a judiciary. We also have an executive. So we are in line with the United States of America, the organic, beautiful Constitution.
All right. Well, that was a great wrap up. Uh, Thank you for listening. Thank you for being on the show today. As
Mhm.
always, do your own research and come to your
Always.
own conclusions. My presentations are always made in hopes that never again will the truth be lost in translation. This is Mylidna and Simone signing off for today.
Thank you. God bless.